The haunting route, bus number 111, in the outskirts of a small, misty town, there existed an ominous urban legend about a mysterious bus route, bus number 111. Unlike any ordinary bus, this one operated under peculiar circumstances. It appeared only on moonless nights and followed a route that was not marked on any official map. People whispered stories of its passengers, none of whom were ever seen again. For years, the tale of Bus No. 111 was dismissed as just another ghost story to scare children. But those who ventured too close to the bus stop on a dark night spoke of chilling encounters. Some claimed to hear the distant rumble of its engine, even when no vehicles were near. Others described eerie whispers that seemed to come from nowhere. Despite these warnings, curiosity always drew someone toward the forbidden route. One such person was Samira, a young journalist with a penchant for unraveling mysteries. When she first heard of bus number 111, her instincts told her it was a story worth investigating. The townsfolk, however, grew pale at her questions and refused to say much, warning her to stay away. Determined to uncover the truth, she decided to experience it firsthand. On a moonless night, Samira stood at the fabled bus stop, clutching her camera and notebook. The air was heavy with silence, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves. Midnight approached, and just as she was beginning to doubt the legend, the faint sound of an engine echoed through the stillness. A dim light appeared down the empty road, growing brighter as it approached. Moments later, an old, rusted bus came into view. The number 111 flickered faintly on its front display. It screeched to a halt in front of her, and the door creaked open. Hesitating for only a moment, Samira stepped aboard. The interior was dimly lit, with seats covered in faded, torn fabric. An eerie chill filled the air and a faint odor of decay lingered. There were passengers seated, but something about them seemed off. They sat unnaturally still, their faces pale and devoid of expression. The driver, a gaunt man with hollow eyes, didn't acknowledge her as she fumbled for coins and dropped them into the fare box. She took a seat near the middle, her heart pounding. As the bus began to move, she noticed the windows were fogged up, obscuring the view outside. Samira tried to engage the passengers in conversation, but they didn't respond. It was as though they couldn't hear her, or chose not to. She pulled out her notebook and began jotting down details. Her camera clicked as she captured the eerie atmosphere. The bus followed a route unlike any she had seen before. The roads grew narrower and darker, lined with twisted trees that seemed to reach out like skeletal hands. The further they went, the more disoriented she felt. It was as though they had left the town entirely and entered another realm. The whispers began softly at first, barely audible over the hum of the engine. Samira looked around, trying to identify their source, but the passengers remained motionless. The whispers grew louder, forming incoherent words that seemed to echo inside her head. Suddenly, the bus came to an abrupt stop. The driver turned to face the passengers for the first time. His hollow eyes locked onto Samira, and a sinister smile spread across his face. "This is your stop," he said in a raspy voice. Confused and terrified, Samira clutched her belongings and stood up. The other passengers turned their heads toward her in unison, their empty eyes staring straight through her. She stumbled to the door, which opened with an agonizing creak. Outside, the landscape was unrecognizable. A dense fog covered the ground, and the air was thick with an unnatural silence. As the bus pulled away, Samira realized she was completely alone. Panic set in as she tried to find her way back, but the path seemed endless. Her phone had no signal, and the trees loomed ominously around her. Hours felt like days, and exhaustion began to take its toll. Just when she thought she couldn't go any further, she stumbled upon a clearing. In the center stood a dilapidated building, its windows shattered and walls covered in ivy. Desperate for shelter, she approached cautiously. Inside, she found faded photographs and newspapers strewn across the floor. To her horror, one of the articles bore her picture in the headline, "Local journalist disappears after boarding bus number 111. The date was the same as that night. Before she could process what she had seen, the whispers returned, louder and more insistent. Shadows moved in the corners of her vision, and a chilling laughter echoed through the room. Samira realized the truth too late. She had become part of the legend, trapped in the haunting route of bus number 111, destined to wander the void forever. To this day, the bus continues its journey, luring unsuspecting passengers into its cursed path. And if you ever find yourself at an empty bus stop on a moonless night, beware. Bus number 111 might just be your last ride.